ESPN Kansas City is KCTE Independence and K233DM Raytown, 1510 AM, 94.5 FM.
Sports is the one thing this guy is truly passionate about. So passionate that sometimes we just have to put this sports nut on a leash.
I have problems with Kareem Hunt going to the Browns. This makes absolutely no sense. Because again, he's on the exempt list. Is he going to play? It'll be a waste for not only Kareem Hunt himself, but it would be a waste for the Cleveland Browns to have him sit 1 year on the bench. Well, I guess it wouldn't be a waste for Kareem Hunt because he'd be getting paid anyway. They're paying him $1 million for the whole year. $1 million. They're paying him regardless, I think. This is no stoppage. Oh, just because you're on the exempt list, we're not paying you. No, they're paying the guy.
It's time for Radioactive Sports with Justin Pemberton on ESPN Kansas City. Tune in every Saturday morning as Justin gives his fascinating opinions and thoughts on the most interesting topics in sports, right here in Kansas City. Now the host himself, Justin Pemberton.
Good Saturday morning, Kansas City. Welcome to a brand new edition of Radio Active Sports right here on ESPN Kansas City. And of course, you are listening to 1510 AM and 94.5 FM. I am Justin Pemberton, the host of the show as always, like I am every Saturday morning from 6 a.m. to 7 a.m. And we have got a good show for you lined up for this morning. As coming up, you can hear two Thursday conversations I had. First with John Kurtz in segment 2. Of course, he is from KMAN. 1350 AM in Manhattan, Kansas. We talked some Kansas State basketball. That's coming up in segment 2. Segment 3 will be with David Lesky from BP Kansas City. Gee, I was Baseball Prospectus. I had I had trouble on Thursday when I had David on because here recently, in the last, few years, he's been with Baseball Prospectus Kansas City, but it's Baseball Prospectus. There's no longer BP Kansas City, so it's just Baseball Prospectus. We'll talk some Royals baseball with David. That's coming up. You hear the entirety of those segments, though, on the podcast. I didn't quite have the segments ready to go for... They're ready, but the entirety of those segments are just not play for this show for this morning. They're not here for the show for this morning. I'm trying to talk here, but no, the entirety of those segments can be heard on the podcast here today. On the podcast later, if you log on to SoundCloud.com, plus you can go on my Facebook page on my timeline. You can find those segments for the show you can click on for the entirety of the podcast and you listen to the entire show, and those will be on there. And then, of course, if you've not heard, Radio Active Sports is now on iTunes, so you can go on iTunes and listen to today's show on iTunes. There's plenty of options to listen to the show. And of course, if you like to listen to the show on here, of course, you can tune in on 94.5 FM, 1510 AM, 1510.com, and then of course you can download the TuneIn app, which is on the App Store, and don't worry, it's for free. And just search for ESPN 1510 to listen to any content that we play on the station, including my show here on every Saturday morning. And of course, we're also coming live right now on Facebook Live, so if you're checking out your Facebook, I am right there on Facebook Live. You can see my hand waving there. And then, of course, we're coming live here right now here on ESPN Kansas City. So let's get started with the monologue. I need to point out the last segment for the show. We'll wrap up the show, and we'll talk about Dee Ford and what the Chiefs should do with the Pro Bowl pass rusher for the Kansas City Chiefs. We'll see what they do, and I'll give my thoughts on that here coming up. But let's start out, though, with Eric Skoglund of the Kansas City Royals and the monologue, as that's one of the biggest storylines going into spring training for the Royals is Eric Skoglund and his 80-game PED suspension. Of course, that was one of the topics that I had with David Lesky. That's, of course, what we started out with. You hear that coming up here on the show. But I want to get my own thoughts on Eric Skoglund. We'll play a soundbite of him here very shortly. But this is just another horrible mistake by a player that really knows better. And, I don't care if we are past the steroid era. I don't care if baseball has gotten itself past that. It's another black eye for Major League Baseball when another player, somebody that you would never think in a million years would take some kind of performance-enhancing in drugs. This is really disappointing. And my first thought, before I get to Eric Skoglund, it's on the Royals organization. Because this is really confusing. What I don't understand is why last year did Dayton Moore and the Royals get all mad and disappointed on Jorge Bonifacio when he got suspended for his situation of taking PEDs or some kind of substance. But now they just they're backing up and they're supporting Eric Skoglund. Like, all players should be treated equal. Like, if one player messes up, they should be getting suspended and they should go through some kind of punishment, and the team should be concerned about everybody. Every player should have the same kind of treatment. Not one player gets disciplined and everybody's mad at this guy, but then Joe Schmo over there, we'll cuddle him and we'll back him up. I don't understand that. That's really confusing to me. So, if you're not following me along, go back to last year for all your Royals fans. Remember, Jorge Bonifacio, the right fielder, got suspended for a similar situation, taking some kind of PED, got suspended, and Dayton Moore got all disappointed about Jorge, saying, you're a leader, you should know better, blah, 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 blah. Well, Eric Skoglund, who is one of the young pitchers in this farm system for this franchise, similar situation, gets suspended for 80 games, PEDs, but yet there's really no anger. Doesn't that seem kind of a little puzzling to you? Because it does to me. Because every player that gets in trouble should have the same equal amount of punishment, treatment. It shouldn't be different for every other player. Like, it shouldn't be different. It's really confusing. I don't get it. I don't get it. Be all mad at Jorge Bonifacio, but then protect Eric Skoglund because he's a good guy. He didn't mean to do it. We have been down this road too many times. And my next thing is the excuse, which you're going to hear Skoglund here coming up here in just a few seconds in this soundbite. Oh, I didn't know what I was taking. Oh, I didn't know what was going on. No. I'm sorry. I'm not trying to knock anything against the guy, but come on. Like, you are your own individual. You know what you were taking. It's going into your body. Right? I mean, how could you not know what you're taking? I mean, you are your own person. You're putting the product into your own system. Oh, I got a King smoothie. No. If MLB knows what you're taking, you do too. Heck, if the franchise you're playing for knows what you're taking, you know what you are taking as well. This makes absolutely no sense. There's something wrong with this whole thing. I think it's just another typical excuse for a player that doesn't want to admit that they took something. We heard this too often in the 90s. Jose Canseco, Barry Bonds, Mark McGwire, Roger Clemens, Sammy Sosa, Brady Anderson, to name a few that were on. They were popping roids, and they didn't want to admit it because it ruins their reputation. It ruins their chances of getting to the Hall of Fame. Well, too bad. You should have been clean all along, you guys, and you would have been in the Hall of Fame. Not to say that Skoglund's going to get in the Hall of Fame and he's going to turn out to be a heck of a player. He could, but you know what? It's already ruined because he did this. People, once you do something like this, you're not going to change anything. Like, it is what it is. There's no going back. Once you've done it, you've done it. I mean, yeah, you gotta live with it, and it's just unbelievable. 2 years in a row that two Royals get caught with steroids, with PEDs, and of course, Mondesi got caught with steroids or PEDs. It's crazy, people. It's crazy with how players just can't stay clean. But let's quickly play Eric Skoglund. This is from, I think this is early this week, or it was over a week or so ago. But this is Eric Skoglund, the Royals pitcher, speaking to the media about his whole situation.
We have no idea, and that was the hardest part. Something got into my body without me knowing. It was scary, and it just kind of makes you think, what could it have been? And that's the hardest part to deal with, is not knowing, because I'm not a guy that's going to cheat the game. I didn't do anything maliciously. It's not the type of person I am. It's not my character. It's not how I was raised. So it sucks. And we couldn't find anything, and that's what's going to eat me for the rest of my career, and it's not a good feeling at all.
What's the theory? Is it like a protein shake, vitamins?
I wish I had an answer. I went to Smoothie King like twice, but I don't think, I really don't know what it could have been. If I would have known, I would have appealed it. I would have tried to fight it in any way I could. I was obsessed with the bank statements and trying to find anything that I ate that was unique or out of the ordinary. But I think the most I did was eat Chick-fil-A or Chipotle was, the one of the things that was like fast food related. Other than that, I didn't change the way I ate from this year to previous years. There's no difference.
In the past years, does any of the workout stuff that you've taken, is that usually stuff you would clear through training staff here? Or?
Well, yeah, they give it to you right before the year ends. They give you all your protein, your vitamins, and this year I was actually very, I guess I was just, I took those vitamins and the probiotics and the creatine very religiously this off season. I never did that in the past, and I was doing it every day. Right when I started training, 3 weeks after the off season is when I started, and I failed that drug test in early November, so kind of around that time. those are the only things I did differently. It was everything that the Royals gave me is what I took. It was all part of what the MLB gives the Royals give to us. And that's all I took. I'm not a guy that's, with my figures, I think you'd kind of know.
What was that conversation like with Dayton when you approached him about the positive test?
A relief. I was in a pretty tough spot. But
Just give him a second, guys.
you can just ask that question again.
Just what was that conversation like with David when you talked about the test?
It was a relief. I was just going through a lot those past couple months because I knew I didn't do anything maliciously. So having his support was a good feeling for me. Him knowing who I am personally, and for me to have to accept an 80-game suspension for something I didn't maliciously do. So it was a relief to finally be able to tell someone and speak about it, and having his support definitely helped.
So as you can see, there is a very emotional Eric Skoglund towards the end of that soundbite. One of the young pitchers in the farm system for the Kansas City Royals, who has had some taste up in the big leagues in his young career so far. But listen, look, this monologue, I'm not concerned about what it is exactly what he took, what it is he got caught for, or what it is that he took to get caught. I'm not really after that. I'm after the fact that he did it, and that that early on in that soundbite you were hearing things like he was going to Smoothie King and Chipotle and Chick-fil-A. No. Why can't you just come out and just say you took it? I'm sorry. If Major League Baseball can find out that you took something, you took it. And it's illegal. Again, it's nothing against Skoglund as a person, but it's another one of those situations where a player lies. He lies about taking some illegal substance. Confess, people. Confess. This is unbelievable. And like everybody else in life, he'll learn from this mistake, and he will be back. He's gonna play. But man, this is a bad. This isn't good. And again, I don't understand the whole situation, between Bonifacio and now Skoglund. Why Dade Moore gets all upset and uptight about Bonifacio, but then backs up and supports Skoglund. It should be the same way all around for all the players. As an organization, you should be mad at anybody that takes steroids and lies about it and doesn't tell the truth. Look, you know what? Maybe there's a side of it, and we're not talking about it. But I guess I'll be the first one to say it. Maybe MLB made a mistake. Maybe they're not seeing something clearly. Maybe Skoglund didn't take anything. Maybe. But again, if MLB can track you down, if they know that you took something, then you as an individual, as Eric Skoglund or Gary Sheffield or whoever, you should know what you took. Because you put it into your own system. Okay? And you should come out and say, I did it. I did it. I took steroids. I ruined my body. I let all you down in whatever team you play for, in all baseball, and all the fans that support me. That's what you should be doing. Not be making up some story. Oh, I got a Smoothie King and Chipotle. I'm sorry. I can't buy into that. I can't do that. I can't do that. It's not going to work with me. But like we say all the time in life, we make mistakes. We're all not perfect, but this is unacceptable. And if Skoglund will go on to have some great career to where it gets him at least to be a candidate to be in the Cooperstown, he's not going in my book. I'm sorry. It's not happening. Because for those who do not know how I look at things when it comes to Hall of Famers, I don't support cheaters. I don't support guys that take steroids. Bonds, Clemens, McGuire, those guys, no. You're out. You're not in my book. And Skoglund, I mean, I don't know what's going to happen to him, but you know what? We'll see. But this is a bad look for him, and he'll learn from it, but it's still yet very disappointing. So let's take the first break on this Saturday morning. When we come right back here on Radioactive Sports, you'll start to hear the start of my conversation with John Kurtz, as we'll talk some K-State basketball with the guy who is the host of the game on KMAN 1350 AM in Manhattan, Kansas. And, of course, we'll come back on Facebook Live later in the fourth and final segment. So I will sign off on that here in just a few seconds after we start this commercial break here on Radioactive Sports, here on ESPN Kansas City. And, of course, you are listening to 1510 AM and 94.5 FM. I am Justin Pemberton. Much more coming up right after this.
Dedicated, passionate, and not afraid to speak his mind. You're listening to Radioactive Sports with Justin Pemberton on ESPN Kansas City 94.5 FM. Radioactive Sports with Justin Pemberton.
You know, I play hard, we kick their butt again.
On ESPN Kansas City, 1510 AM, 94.5 FM, and 1510.com.
Welcome back to Radioactive Sports. Of course, you're listening to 1510 AM and 94.5 FM. That being ESPN Kansas City. Justin Pemberton still here on the show. Now glad to be joined on this Thursday with John Kurtz from KMAN 1350 AM in Manhattan, Kansas. John, it's been a while. How you doing today?
I'm doing great, Justin. How are you?
Can't complain, my friend. It's been quite a ride in college basketball this year. Now the latest story now being Zion Williamson, possibly, I don't know if he's done for the year. I heard it's a mild sprained knee, but that was pretty scary last night.
Yeah, that was. I didn't get to catch too much of the game, but obviously I saw the highlight like everybody did. I feel like I was trying to rack my brain. I'm pretty sure I've seen that happen before with the shoe, but it had been a long time, and man, it's a tough situation if that is a pretty serious injury to a kid that could be playing in the NBA right now.
What's the mood like in Manhattan with this basketball team?
It was pretty good. I think it's been somewhat tenuous over the last couple of weeks just with the injury situation to go along with the loss to Iowa State here recently. But I think after Monday, that has everybody feeling a lot better, and not just because K-State won a game and won a road game, which crazy enough is the difference between K-State and Kansas in first place right now is that K-State won at West Virginia and Kansas did not. So say what you will about West Virginia and their team this year, but that was an important win for K-State. The other part of it was Dean Wade got back and played 32 minutes, and you know, I don't think he's at full speed and full strength, and in fact, I know the coaches would tell you that he's not. But on a relative scale, based on, you know, him dealing with his injuries recently, I thought he looked pretty good. moving around, 10 points, 6 rebounds. I took that as a big positive, just in the fact that I don't think it's any serious structural damage or anything like that you're dealing with right now for Wade. And I think the fact that he played sort of confirmed that. And they, honestly, the way that game was going in the first half, they really needed him to be there and help out and space the floor and all of those things. So I think when you throw together a win, still being in first place, easy game coming up on Saturday on paper against Oklahoma State at home, and Dean Wade getting back, everybody's feeling a lot better.
And as you bring up about Dean Wade, we'll talk about Dean Wade here in just a few moments, but I want to start with you, John, talking about Barry Brown. He has been on an absolute tear. He's been absolute money for the Cats this year as he just continues to climb up the scoring charts in the history of K-State basketball. He just passed an icon like Bob Boozer, which is just unbelievable, the other night at West Virginia. Now he stands alone in fifth place all time at 1,696 points. He needs just about 304 points to get to 2,000. John, is that possible in your mind, or is that going to be quite a long shot for Barry Brown to accomplish?
Well, I think the significant part is that he has a very good chance to wind up at third on the all-time scoring list by the time the season's done. That's within reach for Barry, and that would be just an absolute heck of an accomplishment for a guy that was a relatively unheralded three-star recruit that came into K-State as a freshman and has just played a ton and developed a ton. And I would tell you right now, I think it's a slam dunk if the season ended today. He's your Big 12 Player of the Year. I think certainly from the coaches, they would make him Big 12 Player of the Year. I think the only real threat there would be the media might then decide with Dedrick Lawson, but in talking with K-State coaches, they're biased, I suppose, but their feeling from coaches around the league is that Dedrick Lawson doesn't have quite the respect that a guy like Barry Brown does. And, the thing that's been so good about his development this year is offensively, he's come a long ways. Defensively, he's always been an elite perimeter defender, certainly for the last 2 years. He's doing that again. But if you look at KenPom right now, their offensive rating in Big 12 games, Barry Brown has the best offensive rating of any player in the Big 12 in conference games. And that's now over a pretty big sample size in 13 games. He's better offensively, and that's basically an efficiency stat. Barry Brown is better than Dedrick Lawson. He's better than Mariel Shayok. He's better than Mekhi Mason at Baylor. Much better than Jared Fulber at Texas Tech. And that, when you pair that with the way he defends, the leadership qualities that he brings to the table, to me, the fact that he's leading the first-place team right now has him in position as long as K-State finishes it off and does win at least a share of the league. I think he has to be your Big 12 Player of the Year.
Yeah, but it's just so incredible of what he's been able to do. I mean, if you're going to pass two icons like Bob Boozer and then Rolando Blackman, if he would get to be third place all time in that scoring list, that would be absolutely incredible.
Yeah, he's not going to wind up obviously catching Jacob Pullen, but
no, or Mike Evans.
You're talking about that kind of company that he's keeping. It doesn't get a whole heck of a lot better than that in K-State.
Next topic with you is about Dean Wade. Listen, did Bruce Weber do the right thing the other night by playing Dean Wade? I know that's gotten some question. Either some people felt like it was the right thing to do, and some may felt like it wasn't right. At first, when I heard the news that he was going to be active, it really surprised me. I thought Dean Wade was going to be sitting out these next two games. I feel like Bruce Weber sort of should have set out Dean Wade, but John, did you feel that Bruce Weber did the right thing?
Yeah, I definitely do, because I'm not 100% sure they win that game if Dean Wade doesn't play. And if Dean Wade was at the point where he was feeling good enough to play and good enough to play at a decently high level, which I think was very clear that he was, watching him in that game, then I think it was the right move. Because as much as we as fans and media would look from the outside looking in and say, well, that's a 2 Big 12 win West Virginia team that you're playing on the road, one, K-State has always struggled there. K-State has had a hell of a time playing in Morgantown. West Virginia is a team that will really beat you up, and K-State right now has very limited depth. So to not have Dean Wade and then have to go further into the bench playing against West Virginia, that's not going to be great. And you saw, K-State has 4 bigs on the roster right now that are just borderline unplayable at the Big 12 level. You'd imagine more minutes for Levi Stocker or Austin Trice in that game because you don't have Dean Wade. The more I talk about it, I think they very well may have lost that game. So, you're talking about the difference in a Big 12 championship or not by playing Dean Wade. I suppose it's a sacrifice of a little bit of extra rest, but they seem to have a pretty good grasp on the situation. I think it's going to be this way with Dean the entire rest of the season. I think it's just a pain management deal there. How much pain can he tolerate on a night-in, night-out basis? And it's probably going to be different some nights than others. And I trust their judgment there, along with Dean Wade and what he's telling them themselves. And I think in hindsight, it looks like absolutely a slam dunk the right decision.
Yeah, it led to my reaction on Twitter during the game. I don't know if you saw me tweet out, but I was saying, with some of that foul trouble that was going on between Stockard and Mayween and James Love is the other guy that was in foul trouble. It led to me just saying, hey, Bruce has got to continue to recruit some bigger guys. They need some more size down there and get some guys in there that can really prevent themselves from getting into more foul trouble.
Definitely an area of concern moving forward. I can tell you, arguably the best part of their recruiting class is a Rivals 150 kid, Montavious Murphy, who I think will be a stretch 4 for them, who's 6'8". I think he'll play a lot next year, and that will certainly help. I actually really like the potential that McCall Mayween has, and if you look at some of the analytics on him, he's actually a much better player than I think most K-State fans give him credit for. So it's not as decrepit a situation as some may think, but they do have too many projects on the roster, and I would think, the way college basketball goes these days, that 1 or 2 of those guys may transfer and be out of there when you're talking James Love, Nigel Shad, Austin Trice, Levi Stockard. And they do need to do a better job there in the future. But I think by playing small, they play small a lot this year already anyway. I think by playing small and some of what they already have signed up in that recruiting class, they'll be able to somewhat mask the issues that they're going to have there next year.
We're talking with John Kurtz right now from KMAN, 1350 AM in Manhattan, Kansas. Next thing is the popularity with the fans of Coach Bruce Weber. What is it like still with some of the fans? Are they starting to kind of embrace him more? Because if there's still some fans out there that are not, my message is I think they need to get on board because this guy continues to win. I know it's not. He doesn't get the color blue, the blue chip 5-star recruits. He doesn't go after big time athletes, but he gets the guys that will buy into his system, and he's still winning. And they're on the mark of winning a Big 12 title, and I think the fans need to really, really embrace this guy.
Yeah, I think the temperature is definitely warmed as far as the fans and Bruce Weber. I don't know that just because of some of the deep-seated hate that was there for a lot of people for a long time about Bruce Weber and the fact that he wasn't Frank Martin, and because Bruce just isn't a dynamic personality, I think there's always going to be some level of he will not be beloved like perhaps a Frank Martin was during his time at K-State, but he's winning more than Frank Martin. He's doing things that Frank wasn't doing, and so you start winning that much, eventually people are going to come around to it, at least tolerating you. And I think we're starting to get to that stage with the majority of the fan base. And I think that's a good thing. Bruce Weber's been through a lot. It was definitely a good debate for a long time there, whether or not he should be allowed to put together the rebuild that he did. But they stuck with it, and right now it's paying huge dividends. So I'm happy for him. I'm happy for that whole staff, who I think does a really good job. And I think K-State's going to be in a pretty good position over the next few years as well. I don't think it's just going to fall off the face of the earth this year, even though they do lose quite a bit. I think Bruce Weber now has regained footing under the program after they had to really bottom it out with Marcus Foster and that whole blow-up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was that was a terrible situation there a few years ago. But now just thoughts and prediction on the game for Big Monday. I know we're skipping ahead, looking forward to the Monday's game instead of the Saturday's game. But is this a game where if K-State would lose this game, does that concern you at all? Would that be a big deal at all? Considering that K-State would probably still be a game or so ahead of the Jayhawks?
Yeah, here's how I look at the Kansas game. Obviously, you have a lot to gain there if you win the game. I mean, you would essentially be putting to bed Kansas' streak inside out in Fieldhouse by sweeping Kansas for the first time, and I don't even know when, to be honest, the last time was that that's happened. So there is a lot that could be gained by that. I still think, however, there's a pretty good chance. Well, I would tell you, I think there's a great chance K-State still shares the league, even if they lose that game at Lawrence. And I still think there's a decent chance they still win the league outright, even by losing that game to Kansas, because they'll be favored in every game the rest of the way after that. And yes, Baylor at home does look like it'll be tricky, and at TCU might be a little bit tricky, but this team has really handled their business very well throughout the course of the season. So I wouldn't really see that changing. And Kansas, I think, is flawed enough that, one, I see them losing Saturday in Lubbock, and two, KenPom right now has them at like 56% to win at Oklahoma, which isn't overwhelming. They've still got 2 more road trips left. I think K-State can lose that game and still find a way to win the league outright, potentially. So I wouldn't say that it's worthy of freaking out about if K-State loses that game, because it's going to be a Jack Allen Fieldhouse, and well, I think Kansas is an extremely flawed team. When they have all the energy and the focus and excitement they're going to have playing that game inside Allen Fieldhouse with the Big 12 title implications on the line, it's a pretty tough ask to go win that game.
We're talking with John Kurtz from KMAN 1350 AM on Radioactive Sports. Just a couple more questions before I let you go here, John. And speaking of Kansas State and their chances of winning the Big 12, do they win the Big 12? And if no, who does?
I think K-State will share the Big 12 is probably the most likely scenario right now, and I waffle between Kansas and Texas Tech as to who that will be, because I think the Red Raiders have been slept on. If they win that game Saturday in Lubbock, which they're going to be the definite favorite in that game, they have one tough game on paper left on their schedule. That's the last day of the regular season at Iowa State. And the Cyclones have a reputation among the league's coaches of being a fairly soft team. Texas Tech is someone that's going to come in and physically really beat on you. And if that is a game where literally Tech can win a share of the lead on the last day of the regular season by picking up a win there, you know, I really think Texas Tech's in a better position than we would really think that they are. So right now, I'll probably, if you really force me to it, just because of history, I would go Kansas and K-State share the Big 12. But I think I'm like 60-40 on that right now, as opposed to Tech sharing it with K-State.
Yeah, interesting. I've been really fighting between K-State and Iowa State, but man, Iowa State sure has shown to be somewhat of a kind of a wild card. They look good at times, like on Saturday in Manhattan, and then on Tuesday night they absolutely just stunk it up from 3 against Baylor, and they lost at home. So I'm gonna go with I'm gonna probably go with Kansas being the winner. But if there's a team minus Kansas, I think it'll probably be Kansas State.
Yeah, I mean, K-State's in a great position right now. It would take, if K-State doesn't share the Big 12, that would take, that's an upset. That's a big-time upset at this point, based on having a one-game lead, being favored in 4 of the final 5 games here. It would be a major upset if K-State doesn't share.
Good or bad move on the Browns signing Kareem Hunt?
It's a really tricky one. I mean, John Dorsey kind of has a reputation of taking on some guys like that. I actually think if you want to just talk from your football standpoint, it's hard to argue that it's not a good move. And I do think that Kareem Hunt seems to be a guy that would be pretty remorseful about what's happened, and does seem to me, at least on the surface, to be a candidate to kind of turn his life around. You know, we could have the debate all day long about second chances and what's the line and what guys deserve second chances and whatnot. But I think in the current climate of the NFL, obviously you're not going to get beat down in the court of public opinion enough to make it not worth it. So with a cynical view on it, I think it's probably a good move for the Browns.
And my last question, is it smart for a baseball franchise, so let's say, for example, the Padres, to sign a big-name player like Manny Machado to 10 years, $300 million?
Yeah, I mean, in general, I always cringe at those contracts because, you know, the odds of it really, truly working out seem to be low, and you could wind up with an Albert Pujols kind of contract that carries a lot of dead weight by the end of it. I will say that really what you're paying for there, instead of years 8, 9, and 10, for instance, on the contract, you're really paying extra just to try and get great production out of the first, say, 4 or 5 on that contract. And I think it's definitely possible that Machado does give them a lot of value there, but it's very tough. When a contract that's that much for that long, the odds are against you that it's going to wind up in the end working out as a great deal. But so I would lean that way with it, but I do think that Machado is a great player and that he can give him some really good years.
Yeah, but, you know, my concern with that whole thing is the clubhouse chemistry. I think he's been kind of one of those players that's been known for having a kind of a rough attitude, and some of his teammates in the past may have never appreciated that. I just don't know how that's going to really transpire in San Diego, so that's going to be really interesting, but we'll see what happens with the Friars and Manny Machado. But, hey, John, thanks for your time today, and good stuff as always, and we'll catch you on down the road.
All right, sounds good, Justin. Thanks.
All right, so there is John Kurtz from 1350 AM in Manhattan, Kansas. Good stuff as always, talking with John Kurtz, talking K-State basketball or anything K-State related. Man, exciting times right now for the Wildcats as they are on the verge of a Big 12 title. It'll be interesting to see what goes on down the stretch in the Big 12 Conference, and we shall see. All right, so much more coming up next here on Radioactive Sports. And we'll come back with more after this on 1510 AM, 94.5 FM. You're listening to ESPN Kansas City. I'm Justin Pemberton. Don't go anywhere. Much more coming up.
You're listening to Radioactive Sports with Justin Pemberton on ESPN Kansas City. 1510 AM, 94.5 FM, and 1510.com. You're listening to Radioactive Sports with Justin Pemberton.
We didn't talk any baseball.
No, we didn't.
What's up with that? You a baseball hater, Justin?
Well, have you seen the product lately?
Yeah, they won 2 straight series.
Yeah, but they need to...
Hater!
Is that just... That's like become like the main... like
all of y'all drinking your haterade. I am a man of the people. The common voice. I wouldn't necessarily say a voice of reason. That's probably not true.
On ESPN Kansas City.
Welcome back to Radioactive Sports. And, of course, we are here on ESPN Kansas City, and you're listening to 1510 AM and 94.5 FM. Now we're glad to have David Lesky back on the show. It's been a while, but we're getting back into the groove of baseball season. David, it's been a long time. How's it going, man?
It has been a while. It's going great. How are you?
Not too bad. I'm really excited about baseball season. It's a sign that spring's on its way.
Absolutely. I'm heading down to Arizona in a few days, so I'm ready for it.
Nice. Of course, we've had some coverage on our sister station this week with Seren Petro doing coverage from Surprise, Arizona, and I'm sure he's enjoyed his time away from the icy city of Kansas City, of all this yucky winter weather. I'm done with it, man.
You and me both. Although, Seren had to deal with some cold and rain in Arizona, so it's not all perfect. But
no,
better than here. And cold in Arizona is relative because it's like 55.
No, but I'm sure he'll take it over what's going on here.
Yeah, definitely.
It's awful, man. And what the weirdest thing with this weather, it starts on every Tuesday. Like,
it was every Tuesday.
Why?
Every Sunday. So it's just a nonstop. Yeah.
I don't understand it at all. It just makes no sense. But hey, we can't control it. We can only just embrace it and deal with it. Unfortunately.
Of course. Yep. And that's what we've been doing all winter.
All right, enough about old man winter and Mother Nature. Let's talk some Royals baseball. And I want to start out with one of the hottest topics, and that's about Eric Skoglund being banned for 80 games with the PED situation. Look, I'm not so sure if you caught his soundbite talking to the media at all.
Yeah, I've seen it.
I really don't understand. I really, honestly, I can't really believe when you say something like, "Oh, I didn't know what was going on. Oh, I didn't know what I was taking." Like,
yeah, I don't buy it.
How could you not understand? Because you're the individual that's taking the product. Like, it's going into your body.
Right, and he says he didn't change anything. Well, no, sorry. You know, you if you had that much control over what you're ingesting, and you've got the Royals organization and the team doctors behind you, it shouldn't happen. And he can go out there and say, I have no idea what happened. Maybe he doesn't, but if he has no idea what happened, it's almost worse, because it's like, what are you doing?
Right.
What exactly? How exactly are you existing as a major league player? And yeah, I personally think he knew what he did, and there's an excuse out there, and it's easy to make an excuse like that. You just say, I don't know, because it has happened before, and it's happened in the Royals organization before. You know, Alberto Mondesi, when he's back when he was Raul Mondesi, he got suspended, and the arbiter believed him that he didn't know, that he didn't realize there was something in what he took, because he's one of the, I think he's the only guy to have his 80-game suspension reduced. And, you know, it's a really easy excuse to say, oh, I didn't know, but the fact is, he had to know. I mean, either you didn't know or you were putting things in your body that you should have asked about. Either way, you're at big-time fault, and, you know, he's going to get his 80 games, which, thankfully for the Royals organization, one, it doesn't really matter all that much this season, and two, it's Eric Skoglund, so it doesn't really matter all that much in general. But it would have been nice to get him an extra 3 months on the field to see what he can do, to see if he can build on some of the positives that he put forth in 2018. But you know, we're not going to get that, and so it opens up some room for other players who didn't break the rules, which I think is more than okay.
And look, it's not a knock on the guy, but I can't handle players that decide to fib and lie, because we have seen this so often, because you know about the steroid era. I mean, McGuire and Sosa, Clemens, Bonds, it goes on and on and on. And all these guys probably had the same excuse. Oh, I didn't know what I was taking. Oh, I didn't know what was going to my body. I mean, no. Cry me a river. Boo-hoo to you. I'm sorry. I can't handle that. So it's nothing personal against Skoglund. I'm sure he's a nice guy and everything, but you know what? You messed up, and you need to live up to your mistake, and you need to accept your punishment. But my next thing with this whole thing is, and this is really a real puzzle here with the Royals organization, is why did they go after Bonifacio so hard last year and act so disappointed with his actions and his suspension, but yet they back up and they support Skoglund? I just don't understand that.
I thought the same thing. They were a lot. Now they showed their support for Bonifacio, and there was.
Right,
I went back and looked at some of the statements. It just wasn't. It was very much, well, he's an organization, so we've got to say we support him. Blah blah blah. With Skoglund, it really seems like they 100% believe what he has to say. They don't have any idea how it happened, and they're nothing's going to change with their relationship. Where it's very clear the relationship between the Royals and Bonifacio has changed. I don't get it either. It doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me. I don't like it. I feel like you should stand behind your players regardless, or not, or show disappointment regardless. And I think you can do both, actually. But yeah, they were definitely harder on Bonifacio than they are on Skoglund. And, I can go back to the Mondesi thing from a couple years ago, too. They were really supportive of him also. And like I said, it was proven, or at least they believed that he didn't realize what was happening. So, maybe it's a matter of Skoglund got mixed up with the wrong stuff and they understand that mistakes happen, whereas Bonifacio actively went out and tried to put steroids in his body to get better, and maybe that's the difference. I don't know, but yeah, there's definitely a difference. I don't completely understand it. I don't expect to ever completely understand it because I don't think we'll know all that information. But it's interesting how differently they've reacted to both of these suspensions.
Here's an idea I just thought about, David. We're talking with David Lesky from BP Baseball. I was about to say BP Kansas City. I've now realized it's now just Baseball Prospectus, sadly.
Yeah. No more BP Kansas City. It's still up if you want to read old articles. But
but no, I just thought of an idea, though, is do they maybe just treat certain players different, like the ones that have been up there and they're proving themselves, and then when they mess up and then they get really mad at them, compared to the ones that are maybe still trying to prove themselves, like Skoglund, and they'll just kind of cuddle them and say, "Oh, it's okay, we believe you." Is that a possibility?
Yeah, it could be, although Bonifacio wasn't exactly an established veteran.
No, but my point
he had some success, but
my point with him is he's already been up in the big leagues. He's had some production. He's starting in. You were just getting ready to say that, he's starting, or he's still trying to prove himself, but he's been up the big leagues compared to Skoglund, where he had a little taste of the big leagues, not a whole lot, and he's still trying to get himself to that stage. That's kind of where I'm coming from.
Yeah, it could very well be, and that would make some sense. It's hard to say for sure without actually specifically asking the question, which if you did, you'd never get a straight answer from Dayton more about that. But there's a lot of possibilities. I don't know what the answer is. It's definitely odd to me, but maybe I'm sure there's somebody else will get popped at some point, and we'll find out what their reaction to them is, and maybe we can start making some sense out of it all.
So let's next talk about Whit Merrifield, who has just been an absolute bright spot on this team these last few years. Got a new contract this year. I think it's definitely going to work out this time compared to previous 4-year contracts. Gordon, Kennedy, and then, of course, this wasn't a 4-year deal, but the Joakim Soria contract didn't work out. I think this one's going to work out from both sides this time around.
Well, yeah, I mean, and if it doesn't, it's such a little amount of money that it really doesn't impact the organization in the same way that Gordon's deal has and Kennedy's deal and Soria's and some of the other ones that have gone sideways for them. So that's beneficial. But it's a great deal for both sides, honestly, because with Merrifield, I looked at the numbers, and if he had just gone year to year through arbitration, I think he would have topped out at about $20 million over these 4 years. So he cost himself a little bit in that, but that's where he would have topped out. That's not the likely. The likely number he would have gotten probably between $16 and $18 million. So he probably got his security. The Royals got some security there. The last year of his contract is really interesting. At first, I thought, well, this shows they want to spend in 2022 because he's only getting $2.75 million that last year. In looking at it a little bit deeper, I think he's a little bit concerned about a strike, and so he wanted his money before the strike, which I get. Good for him. But all in all, it's a really valuable, relatively small deal for a really valuable player. It gives them the opportunity to have a veteran in the locker room, which he has become at this point. As the young players come up, and with Merrifield, it's great because if you want him to play second base, he'll play a really good second base. If you want to put him in center field, he'll play a really good center field, left field, right field. He can probably handle third base. He can handle first base a little bit. I mean, you probably don't want to put him there long term, but he does so much. He can do so much at such a high level that there's not a whole lot of risk. And there's no chance that a guy like him, he's not going to block anybody. If Nicky Lopez comes up in August, let's say, and is a terror at the plate on the bases, he's a great defender at second base, all that. Okay, Merrifield can go play left field next season, where Alex Gordon's spot's vacated. It's just there's so many options with this that it's a perfect deal for both sides, I think.
Yeah, I'm definitely excited about Whit Merrifield. He brings so much to the table. He can run, he can hit. He's just an all around. Now, I mean, let's be honest here. He's not a flashy player, and we don't really need him to be. I mean, the Royals really don't need him to be flashy. He can just be steady and consistent, and that's what he is. And, as long as he does that, along with other contributors, Mondesi and others, this team could be... You know what? I'm just going to say this just for an early prediction. I think the Royals will surprise some people this year with Mondesi possibly breaking out, and then, of course, Whit Merrifield is doing what he does best.
Yeah, no, I think they've got a nice, solid base. And Merrifield's the type of guy that winning teams have. He's the best player on this team. Well, he may not end the team, but in 2018 he was the best player on the team, and it was at times guys. Soler was really good to start the season, and Mondesi had the flashes, and in the last couple months of the year, Hearn hit well and all that. But from start to finish, Whit Merrifield was the best player on the team. You're probably not very good if Whit Merrifield's your best player. He's a great player to have, but you only want him to be your third or fourth best player.
No.
And moving forward, I think he has a chance to be that, and the Royals have a chance to build a really solid team with him kind of in the center of things at a really, really reasonable deal. So I think it works out really well for both sides.
We're still here talking with David Lesky from Baseball Prospectus, or BP, but we'll say Baseball Prospectus. I still have a hard time. I still want to say Kansas City, but I realize that now. It's just Baseball Prospectus. But next thing is about, speaking of Mondesi, is this the breakout year for Mondesi? I'm starting to feel like he's going to really break out. I mean, this kid has the raw ability. He's got all the tools. He can flat out fly on the bases. He can get on base. He can hit for some power. This kid can do it all.
Oh, yeah, look, I think, if not the most talented, the second most talented player in my lifetime the Royals have had.
Carlos Beltran?
Carlos Beltran's the only guy, and some people might say Bo Jackson, but look, he had some issues. From a baseball perspective, he swung and missed too much, and Mondesi did that too. But the athleticism is just off the charts. Mm-hmm. I was on 810 last week maybe with Brad on Sports Night, Brad Porter, and we were both talking about just how amazing it is watching Mondesi run. He just glides. You don't realize he's so fast and you see it, but he's similar to Beltran in that you see a guy, he's running, and you look up and he's on third base and you have no idea how he got there. It's incredible to watch him. And last season he was able to put some power to his game. Obviously, the stolen bases are incredible. 33 steals in 75 games, 14 home runs. I mean, this is a guy, he started to put it together toward the end of last season. And he has his limitations because he doesn't take pitches very well. And, there's a lot to be desired there. But he has the tools to be one of the best players in baseball. And I talked about Whit Merrifield. You don't want him to be the best player on your team. Mondesi, you're fine with that. If he's the best player on your team, you have a pretty good shot to be really good. So he's a very important piece of the 2021 Royals, 2020 Royals, or whatever you want to say is the next good team. I think this is the year that we see it from start to finish. Now, again, because he has these plate discipline issues, because he swings and misses a little too much, he's gonna slump. This is not a player who I think you're going to expect to have 6 months of a 290 average with 6 home runs a month, but he will have a couple months of a 350 average with 8 home runs. So all in all, I think he will balance it out. But I think this is a season that we see the Mondesi we've been hoping to see for 5 years now since they signed him.
Okay, so just the last couple of Royals questions. Just give me some real quick answers on this. Ian Kennedy to the bullpen, or is he still a starter?
I think he starts the season in rotation. I think he does end up in the bullpen at some point. But they're talking about it, which means they've thought about it pretty hard. But I don't think he starts the year in the bullpen.
Interesting. I think he's going to be bullpen all around. I think it's that time.
Yeah, and I wouldn't be surprised, but I just think they're going to give him 8 more starts before they put a $16.5 million pitcher in the bullpen.
That's true, and plus, if he does well and actually provides a little value, they could move him for something.
Well, look, as time passes, he's owed less and less money, obviously, and so at some point, he goes from an untradeable contract to a contract that maybe you possibly could move. And so, yeah, I think that there is that possibility. I wouldn't count on it, but if it happens, I think the Royals would be pretty thrilled by that.
Who is the ace of the staff this year? Is it Duffy? Is it Keller? Who is it?
I honestly believe Jake Junis. He was kind of the high flyer last season. He's such a good spring handler. When I was there, he looked just unhittable. And he turned off so well, and then he had the back problems. And people forget that his struggles in the middle of the season were due to a back problem, which I think he's figured out. The slider is dirty. Look, he's kind of like Merrifield. If he's your best pitcher, you probably have a pretty rough pitching staff, and that's okay. He shouldn't be the best pitcher on a good team, but this isn't going to be a good team. And so I think Junis puts it all together, and he's kind of got that year after effect. I don't think he's a true ace, but I think he's the best pitcher on the 2019 Royals.
All right, just a few more questions, just random baseball questions that may also be involved with the Royals too. Here's real quick with David Lesky. Just tell me what the first thing that comes to your mind here. Who leads the Royals in stolen bases in 19?
Oh, gosh. It's either Mondesi or Hamilton. I'll say Mondesi.
I'm going to go with Hamilton for the track record.
Yeah, I mean, I'm tempted to do that, but I also think he's going to hit 9, and he won't be on base as much. It's a sheer opportunity. I think it'll end up being Mondesi, but I mean, it's a coin flip, honestly.
Or maybe Terrence Gore if he gets better at his hitting.
Well, he's been run 80 times. He might steal 70 bases.
Yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun watching those guys this year stealing bases. Next question. Thought of Mike Moustakas playing second base?
No.
Please no. He's not athletic enough. I'm sorry.
I can't wait to see that jiggle when he tries to turn double play.
Is that going to put Shaw then at third, I guess?
Shaw's a good third baseman, but the thing is, Shaw played well at second last year, played well enough at second last year, and I'm surprised they're looking at it this way, but I mean, that's what spring training is for. You have the opportunity to see some things. They know Shaw can handle it, so why not see if Moustakas can handle it? He's a better size for second base, height-wise, but yeah, I don't see any way that works.
No. I can't imagine that working out very well for the Brewers on a one-year deal playing Moose at second base. Favorite Escobar moment during his tenure of the Royals?
I mean, it's got to be the inside the park home run, right?
Yes.
Sort of the World Series. That was fun. Yeah, the other people don't talk about it as much, but Game 3 when Syndergaard buzzed him. I mean, that was kind of the moment. Yeah, they lost that game, but that was. You kind of felt like after that happened, there was no way they were losing that series. They were not going to let the Mets win that series after he did that. So that was an Escobar moment, but he was involved in it, but it wasn't his moment. But that stands out to me a lot. That
may go down as another as a possible favorite Moustakas moment too. Watching him chirping at Syndergaard, that was awesome, man.
That's the one.
That was awesome. All right, last question. Smart for the Padres to ink Machado for 10 years, $300 million. I say, heck no.
See, I disagree with that because
really,
look, there's the perception of Machado, and I think from what we see as fans, he looks like a punk. And I'm not saying he's not. I don't know if he is or it is, but he kind of is on the field. But I've never heard a bad thing about him in a clubhouse. I've never heard a player say, I did not like playing with Manny. It was, he was bad for our team, losing player. I've never heard that. And so I think I don't know that it was smart for the Padres in particular to do it, although they have the best farm system in baseball. They're kind of pitching on its way, and they have a chance to really win. And it's important to have entrenched stars when young players come up. I think about this a lot with the Royals. Guys like Eric Hosmer, Billy Butler, Alex Gordon, Mike Moustakas, they all came up and struggled. Now, Hosmer's struggles came the next year, but they all came up when they were expected to be the man. And the prospects who fare the best, I think, obviously some can do it, but for the most part, these guys, it's nice when they can come up and hit seventh instead of third, fifth, And with the Padres, what they've got is they've got Will Myers, I don't think he'll be on the team for very long, but Will Myers, Manny Machado, and Eric Hosmer, they can take that middle of the order. And so when they bring up Fernando Tatis later this year, he doesn't have to hit third, or he might hit second. He might do it, But all these guys who are on their way, they don't have to be the man right away. And so I think it's really important for a team with a lot of young talent to have some established players so that they don't have to count on the young players right away, and they can kind of develop in the big leagues at their own pace. And so I think, whether it's Machado or Harper or it could have been Marlon Gonzalez, whoever it would be, I think it's important for these teams to sign players like that when they're about ready to win, so they have those guys in place, and it doesn't take – the Royals, all these young guys came up in 2011. It took them 4 years, 3 years really, to get together. If you don't want to wait that long, because you only have 6 years of team control, if you don't want to wait that long, maybe they develop a little bit faster if you don't have to make them put them in that forefront. And so I think it's a really important thing for teams like that to go out and get these guys. And that's why it's so big that the White Sox missed on Machado and aren't going to go after Harper, it looks like, because they're not going to have that piece. They've got Jose Abreu, but really not much else. And it's hard for young guys to develop when they have to be that on the forefront of the team.
Yeah, but my issue with the Padres doing this is it's not only club chemistry with Machado's attitude, but if you didn't catch MLB Network, they were talking about it, and I forgot who mentioned this, but Machado and Hosmer take up about 41% of their payroll. And that's,
they do, and
that's only
an issue.
And that's only. Sorry for cutting you out there, but that's only if you're talking about a 40-man roster. If you're talking about the 25-man roster, it goes up to 50%.
Sure, and that is an issue. But if you look at their young talent, I mean, those guys are going to come up and make $500,000 or $600,000.
This is true.
The Padres are the perfect team that can take this on and have him be so much of their salary, because they. Theoretically, and we've seen how this can work, they've got so much young talent in the pipeline. I mean, they've got a system that's similar to the Royals in 2011. And the Royals won the 2014 pennant with a really inexpensive roster. And if they had, you might think, hey, if they had a star, maybe they would have gotten to Bumgarner in Game 7. Maybe they would have won the World Series in 2014 too. I'm not saying that they were wrong to not. They were wrong to not have a player like that. But they can handle having that much salary because so much of their talent is inexpensive for the next few seasons. And then, look, Hosmer gets after 4 more years, he's at $21 million, then he goes down to $13 million a year, and so that lessens the burden a little bit. Will Myers will be off the payroll, and so I don't think it's that big of a deal. Plus, teams are swimming in money. The fact that these free agents aren't signed is an indictment on the owners around all of baseball. They have so much money, they can afford these guys.
Right.
That should not be an issue. And so, it's concerning if they take up so much of the payroll, but at the same time, the Padres can handle that because of all their young talent, I think.
Well, we'll see what happens. It should be interesting, and it should be a really fun baseball season. And, David, I'll look forward to having you on throughout the baseball season. And good stuff as always, man, and I look forward to chatting with you on down the road.
Absolutely. I'll be around.
I'll probably have you back on here in a few weeks just before the season gets going. We'll probably have some predictions and record predictions for the season.
Definitely. Once I get back from seeing them in Arizona, I'll know a lot more.
Yeah, have fun in Arizona, David.
I will do that. Thank you so much.
So there is David Lesky from Baseball Prospectus. Good stuff as always from David Lesky talking some Royals baseball there. And now we're going to take the last break of this show, and we'll come right back, and we'll wrap it all up after this here on ESPN Kansas City. You're listening to Radioactive Sports on 1510 AM and 94.5 FM. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
Radioactive Sports with Justin Pemberton.
I love carpet. I love desk.
Brick, are you just looking at things in the office and saying that you love them?
I love lamp.
Do you really love the lamp, or are you just saying it because you saw it?
I love lamp. I love lamp.
Let's get radioactive. More Radioactive Sports with Justin Pemberton after this on ESPN Kansas City. Radioactive Sports with Justin Pemberton.
You've been waiting so long to talk about Patrick Mahomes. So long.
Yes. A week. It feels like. Yes, a week.
Patrick already has a tattoo.
Well,
You can see it. It's right in that tramp stamp area.
Well, I don't like to brag, but
I mean, he did throw a touchdown in his first game, so clearly he's going to be a Hall of Famer.
Yeah.
And
plus he's my fellow namesake, so hey, get it while you can.
See,
oh, wow.
And if any of our fellow fantasy football players are listening, the fact that nobody has named their team Throwing with Mahomes, the names they write themselves.
Every Saturday morning from 6 to 7 on ESPN Kansas City.
Welcome back to Radioactive Sports. You're on ESPN Kansas City. Quickly going to wrap things up here. We're just about out of time here. It's really short here. Talking some Chiefs football. Thank you to David Lesky and John Kurtz. Not in that particular order, but thank you. I'll reverse. Thank you, John Kurtz from KMAN 1350, and then thank you, David Lesky from Baseball Prospectus for being on the show here this morning. So let's just wrap it up quickly. We're back here on Facebook Live as well. Hello. And of course, I am Justin Pemberton, the host of the show. Can't fail to mention that as well. But no, quickly on Dee Ford, franchise tag him. As simple as that. I think giving Dee Ford a long-term deal is a mistake. I think you should let the guy prove himself. I don't think Andy Reid, I don't think Clark Hunt should be convinced that the guy is officially an all-pro pass rusher. Plus, we do want to see, obviously, if he can stay on sides and not jump off sides, obviously. But no, Dee Ford was really good this year. Do not get me wrong. I am not trying to say that Dee Ford was not good and that he's not a good player, but let's see it again. Isn't Kansas City or Kansas City, Missouri, isn't Missouri called the Show Me State for a reason? Show me, right? I mean, that's the whole point. Show me what you got. Let's see it again. It's like someone not being convinced that you just made a 3-point shot and you're somebody that's not very good at playing basketball. And this person that was trying to defend you says, no way, do it again. And then you do it again, then they're just like, no, I want to see it again. Do it one more time. That's kind of where I'm going with Dee Ford. We saw the flashes, we saw the glimpses, and then we saw it this year where he did put it together. But now I want to see it again. I want to see it again. Franchise tag him and let's see what he can do. All right, so that's going to officially wrap things up. I know it was really short here. Just so long in those segments. Plus the first one was kind of long too. But that's going to do it here on Radio Active Sports for Saturday morning. I am Justin Barrington. Thanks for tuning in on ESPN Kansas City. And you've been listening to Radio Active Sports on 1510 AM and 94.5 FM. Enjoy your Saturday. Stay dry. The rainy one. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. Check out the podcast on iTunes and other places. Otherwise, we will be back next Saturday from 6 a.m. to 7 a.m. on the same station. See you next week.
Keep up to date with Radioactive Sports by following Justin on Twitter at JPSports1510 and on Facebook by searching Justin Pemberton. Plus, search for the Radioactive Sports Facebook page. You've been listening to Radioactive Sports with Justin Pemberton.
Can we also talk about the poetic justice of Frank Mason being a Kansas grad, going to the team that once was in Kansas City? Like, if the Sacramento Kings made a throwback Kansas City Kings jersey and put Frank Mason's name on it, you know how much that would sell here?
I would get one. But, I mean, at the same time, the Kings are a bottom pit of a franchise. Unfortunately, he and Ben McLemore,
the ultimate death trap.
Get out of there.
But Shaq partly owns it.
What?
Yeah.
When was this?
Didn't he get in like years ago? Like him and another buyer? I'm pretty sure Shaq has a part ownership in the Kings. At least he did at one point.
That's news to me.
Where have you... I'm not even the NBA fan here. Thank you. You should feel bad. You both should feel bad.
I'm sorry.
God, you know, it hurts being this smart sometimes.
It's all about the glasses.
And then we're going to wrap it up here as I'm going to try to now get through all the topics here. As we
haven't even started talking yet.
No, we haven't. Well, we have, just not for the right reasons. Yeah, this is why this show is never scheduled to go the way it's supposed to. You are so right.
That's why we have 4 bonus segments every day.
We got 2 today.
That's so true. Yes, we do.
On ESPN Kansas City.
Bye-bye. ESPN Kansas City is KCTE Independence and K233 DM Raytown, 1510 AM, 94.5 FM.